on Network Africa. Botswana issues arrest warrant for former President Ian Khama. Eritrean Catholic bishop freed after 2 months in detention. Plus, soccer fans in Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya and elsewhere mourn the death of Brazilian football legend Pelé. Hello everyone, welcome to the program today. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. We begin in Botswana, where reporters issued an arrest warrant for former President Ian Khama for the possession of illegal firearms. The judge issued orders that Mr. Khama should be arrested on site. The 69-year-old left the country last year and has been residing in neighboring South Africa. He denies the charges and said they are part of a political conspiracy after he fell out with his successor, President Mngwetsi Masisi. Mr. Khama left office in 2018 after 2 5-year terms. He's facing 14 charges, including allegations of money laundering and handling stolen property. But the warrant issued is only for the possession of 5 illegal firearms. He is jointly charged with the former heads of intelligence and police services. Let's get more on this. Let's talk to Yinka Oyeniji, international affairs analyst and lawyer. He joins us virtually from East Midlands in the UK. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Right, and compliments of the season to you.
Yeah, same to you too.
So let's get to the story. What do you make of the arrest warrant for the former Botswana president, even as he's presently not in the country?
So, we've got to look at it from different perspectives, okay? Because Botswana is one of the countries started to have a stable democracy in Africa since 1965. So Botswana is a picture of stability with respect to governance. And even this present president whose arrest has been ordered stepped down a year before the end of his tenure, and he's been an advocate of African leaders not becoming seat-tight leaders so that they can leave their positions constitutionally as at when due instead of extending their tenure. So this former president, who is now whose arrest warrant has been signed, appears to be the beginning of something not to take lightly, actually, because Botswana that we know has had peaceful transitions from one democracy to the other. This particular president stepped down 1 year ahead of the end of his tenure. His vice president is the present president who is completing his first tenure and who is going to possibly standing for re-election in a couple of months. So it's political more than anything else, and it calls for concern, knowing that Botswana has been a stable democracy for some time, and also the example for the rest of African leaders to follow. But both the present president and former president belong to the same political party. And this is worrying. It's a worrisome development coming from these two members of the same political party in a stable democracy. So it's political by all means. And we wait to see where this goes in the next few months. But it's definitely not the end of the matter as of now.
Right. So the arrest warrant follows Mr. Khama's failure to appear for trial earlier this year. Do you think this could pave the way for Botswana to seek his extradition from South Africa?
Definitely, and he himself has stated that in previous fora to say that he's willing to come back to defend his name and to clear all the doubts that are lingering. But of course, that has to also take into consideration his own safety. So I believe that Botswana is exploring every legal and legitimate means to ensure that the president is brought to answer for any crimes that the present government believes he has committed. However, it is definitely political in nature. So this former president has many siblings in government, okay, extended family, and they are certainly going to be thinking of how to mount a comeback, if you like, in the next election. So this is the first of such, if you like, legitimate reprimand of the former president. So yes, he's definitely going to be extradited. There's no doubt about that. Yes, he has placed himself on self-exile to preserve his life, so to speak, but he was to put himself in a strong state to ensure that the present president is challenged at the next polls.
Right, thank you for your thoughts on that. International Affairs Analyst Yinka Oyiniji speaking to us from the United Kingdom.
Thank you too.
To move on to other stories, Eritrean Catholic Bishop Prekramariam Hagos Salim and Father Meritiab Stephanus have been released from prison after more than 2 months in detention. That's according to several sources linked to the story. But it's not yet confirmed whether a third priest, Capuchin Abbot Abraham, who was arrested with them, remains in detention or has been freed. All 3 priests had been arrested at Asmara International Airport on October the 15th as they flew home from Europe. Eritrea has made no comment about why they were arrested or why they were released. Catholics make up about 4% of Eritrea's 6 million population. According to the religious agency Catholic News Agency, the 3 priests were accused of highlighting human rights violations committed by the Eritrean authorities. President Isaias Afwerki, who has ruled over Eritrea with an iron fist since he led his country to independence from Ethiopia in 1993 after decades-long civil war. Over in West Africa, where local traders in Togo have welcomed China's reopening of its borders to the world, 2/3 of products in Togo's local markets come from China. China announced it will scrap its COVID quarantine for overseas arrivals starting January 8 next year. And this announcement comes after 3 years of tight COVID restrictions in China, according to the general manager of China Tourism Group Travel Service Corporation. The number of calls to inquire about overseas travel has increased in the country. Elsewhere, bridges in Mali have been rehabilitated after they were destroyed in August 2021 by armed terrorist groups. This is part of an extensive project funded by the United Nations Multi-Dimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali, MINUSMA. The rehabilitation of these infrastructures will end the isolation of the local localities and allow the free movement of people and goods between the regions of Mopti and Bandiagara. Nearly 2,500 or 2.5 million people will benefit from this important corridor, which also allows for the intersection between Mali and Burkina Faso. And on a more somber note, Brazil football legend Pelé, one of the greatest players of all time, has died at the age of 82. The former striker, who is the only player in history to win 3 World Cups, passed away at the Albert Einstein Hospital in Sao Paulo following a battle with cancer.
More than 2 years since the passing of Diego Maradona, the football world mourns the death of another legend, Pelé. Known as Edson Arantes do Nascimento, Pelé began playing for Santos at the age of 15 and the Brazilian national team at 16. During his international career, Pelé won 3 FIFA World Cups in 1958, 1962 and 1970, becoming the only player to achieve such feat. Pelé is the all-time leading goal scorer for Brazil with 77 goals in 92 games. At club level, he is Santos' all-time top goal scorer with 643 goals in 659 games. In 1999, he was named Athlete of the Century by the International Olympic Committee and was included in the Time list of the 100 most important people of the 20th century. In the year 2000, Pelé was voted World Player of the Century by the International Federation of Football History and Statistics and was one of the 2 joint winners of the FIFA Player of the Century. Since retiring in 1977, Pelé has been a worldwide ambassador for football. As the curtain draws down on the life of Pelé, the legacies and memories of the football legend lives in the hearts of millions of fans around the world.
Indeed, tributes have been pouring in for Brazil's football legend. Soccer lovers and fans in Nigeria and South Africa mourn his death today. In Abuja, Pelé fans said that he was bigger than football itself, as he transcended soccer like no player before him, and he became one of the first global icons of the 20th century. And in Johannesburg, South Africa, fans said it was a sad day for the sports industry.
He was like a world leader. He was one, he gave, as a child, he gave you hope. I mean, you knew how he started playing football without boots. And then he took Brazil to the World Cup and so many other things. At the time, he even became an asset, Brazilian asset, so that I couldn't play for any foreign club. And that was a great sacrifice. So there's so much about the man. There's so much we can learn from the man. You know, he never stopped representing his country and his people. And for the black race, I mean, he's a phenomenal legend.
I think watching him play even will make you love football. If you're a hater of football, you only see Pelé playing, you don't fall in love with football, because Pelé he rebranded football. He gave football a new name, a new brand.
I think in his era, he was the best. You know, like we said, when we grew up, the only player we knew and we heard of when it comes to soccer was Pelé. And, you know, everybody wanted to emulate him. Everybody wanted to be like him. As a child, you know, you always wanted to play like him, be like him. If you played soccer, I think I played soccer from small, in primary school. And yeah, it's quite sad that he's gone. You know, we're all going to miss him. And it's sad for sport, and he played a big role in sport. And I know that he never played outside his country. I think he didn't want to go to Europe. And he actually showed us that you don't really have to go. If you play your local soccer, you can become great.
It's a very sad day for the world, because he's one of the most legendary players in history. But the world doesn't only lose a soccer player, it also loses a real good family man, an inspiration to many people, as well as a great humanitarian.
I think it's sad for the Brazilians. Must be a huge thing in Brazil right now.
Meanwhile, soccer fans in Kenya are also paying their respect to Brazilian legend Pelé. In Nairobi's busy streets, Frederick Ochieng said he had admired the Brazilian since he was a child. For Nairobi resident Christopher Mburu, we have lost a star. Pelé visited Kenya in 1976 and gave training sessions for the country's most promising young soccer players. Still to come on the program. Ice cream just better and creative as Cape Town Cafe champions African flavors to its menu. Details in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Nigeria has sufficient resources to tackle unemployment as well as generate foreign exchange from natural medicine. And that's according to the Director General of the Nigeria Natural Medicine Development Agency, an agency under the Federal Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. The agency's boss, Dr. Samuel Etetuve, at a sensitization event in Lagos, said Nigeria can take advantage of the resources in the business, which is in the excess of $120 million. He's confident of Nigeria harnessing the resources through its various products and services, which are the outcome of research and innovation.
It will pay the country more if we focus on developing this our traditional medicine knowledge. We have enough bioresources in this country that can bring good health to our people, can increase the local community economy, by encouraging them to go into medicinal plant cultivation, deliberate cultivation. Many Nigerian researchers have actually researched on these medicinal plants and shown that these plants have the capacity to bring succor to many of the diseases that our people are suffering from. So for we as agency, we see it as a potential that we can easily convert. And that led us to look at using those bioresources as raw materials for a product that can manage hypertension, for a product that can manage diabetes, for a product that can take care of malaria, for a product that can take care of intraocular glaucoma, you understand? For a product that can even help to boost egg production in poultry. Out of the 14 products we've developed, 5 of them already have NAFDAC listing.
Meanwhile, the Lagos State government, through the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure and the Office of the Public-Private Partnerships, has announced the preferred bidder for the 4th Mainland Bridge project. The State's Special Advisor on Works and Infrastructure, Aramide Adeyoye, says the project will be flagged off first quarter of next year and will be completed in 2027. She also says the transport infrastructure will include the construction and operation of a greenfield tolled road and bridge with a design speed of 120 kilometers per hour.
This is what the proposed 37 kilometers 4th Mainland Bridge will look like. The project is a proposed public-private partnership transport infrastructure, and the administration of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has finally gotten a preferred bidder for the $2.5 million project after undergoing a competitive bidding process.
From the 6 bidders, on the 31st of May, we had a revised submission date due to COVID pandemic, and revised submission dates ended 30th of August 2021, of which 6 bidders, only 2 responded and were responsive, and they progressed to RFP stage 2.
The Special Advisor on Works and Infrastructure says the project will traverse the northwest towards the lagoon shoreline of Lagos-Ibadan via Ikorodu.
The 3rd Mainland Bridge was finished in 1990. That was 32 years ago. How come it has taken us this long to come on the 4th Mainland? So this is coming after extensive route alignment and survey, 16 to be precise. So 16 route selections were carried out before we eventually arrived at this that has minimal number of demolition, that also fits into the resettlement action plan, and then also signed off with the environmental impact assessment certified by the Federal Ministry of Environment. So essentially it's a 37-kilometer long road. There is a road component and there is a lagoon bridge component that is about 4.5 kilometers. You have the option of real estate provisions along the side. It will also cut across, it will take off from Ibamadesoya all the way over the lagoon, Badore, and then bust out at Sparklight on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
And a word of assurance for those whose property will be affected by the 4th Mainland Bridge.
All of the people will be affected by the construction of the 4th Mainland Bridge will not be allowed to just go astray. They will be well compensated. They have to show their titles, and once you can show your title to any property along that route, you are going to be compensated. So there should be no fear about that. We have a history of compensating people whose property are taken for public use.
The projected period of completion of the 4th Mainland Bridge is within 4 years.
And some Nigerians say they are looking forward to the best of a new year 2023, away from 2022, which many have described as a difficult year. 2022 was especially challenging, with rising prices, alarming insecurity, and the war in Ukraine, just to mention a few of the issues that contributed to that description. Channels Television went to the streets of the nation's commercial capital to capture the sample of views of average citizens about the year 2022 and what the expectations are for the new year.
Although 2022 is gradually drawing to an end, the year has offered Nigerians a mix of good and bad experiences.
At the starting of the year, to see food chop gone is not easy for me. I know what I was passing through, being all alone, no mother, no father, nobody at all. I was struggling all alone, so it was not easy for me. But when the year was coming to the end, so things now got easy for me. So I was able to see this small work that I'm doing now to see something to earn a living.
23-year-old Daniel Peters, a wheelbarrow operator, represents the average Nigerian who is determined to succeed when the streets offer him the opportunity. Kidnapping and banditry, the worsening exchange rate between the naira and dollar, and lately, the lingering fuel scarcity are just some of the negatives that have impacted the standard of living and the nation's economy negatively. The overall impression is that 2022 has been a tough year.
In so many areas, especially people that are doing business, it's not working out very well. All this fuel issue, everything. I don't know, there are some families that they cannot afford 3 square meals any longer.
In terms of security, in terms of economic hardship or whatever, everybody, poverty, everything, unemployment, everything joined together.
And then the Boko Haram thing, the insurgents, they don't do anything about it. The police, they are just doing whatever they like. See what happened at Lekki last week.
In spite of all this, Nigerians expect 2023 to be better, especially being the year that will usher in new governments at various levels.
Let's, whoever that emerge as the president next year, let the person try and work on our power system. I mean, power supply, then security, and roads, infrastructure.
Our education system in Nigeria is then no work, no job. Then we need light. 2023.
We pray that God will help us to choose a government that will be able to have the good heart of the masses.
Part of the International Monetary Fund staff concluding statement of 2022 Article 4 mission suggests that economic growth for Nigerians in 2023 will continue on the back of the agriculture and services sectors, in spite of the decline in oil production and rising prices of crude oil. Notwithstanding the fears, projections, and expectations, the hope is that this will translate into meaningful impact on the living standards of Nigerians.
Well, are you an ice cream lover? Well, if you're bored with the regular vanilla flavor, you just might want to visit Cape Town, South Africa to get an African-flavored ice cream. The cafe, which offers a traditional experience, hopes to share different flavors of ice cream in tubs and cones to celebrate the African food culture, rituals, and folklore. Take a look.
When Tapiwa Goza first started making ice creams 12 years ago, he never imagined he would one day be whisking pumpkin puree and milk together to make an African-flavored ice cream at a cafe in Cape Town. Hailing from Zimbabwe, 36-year-old Goza says he wants to educate locals and visitors alike on African-flavored experiences and correct the narrative that things made in Africa are second-rate or not as tasty.
At some point, it became an aspirational thing to say, I don't eat African food, I eat Italian food, and I eat blah, blah, blah. And at some point, I realized, actually, we need to correct this narrative that things from Africa are second-rate, or they're not as important, or they're not as valuable, or they're not as delicious or accessible. So I started to try to address that problem I was seeing in the world where we as Africans don't value ourselves, and consequently, we don't get to enjoy our own foods as much as we should be.
Located in the bohemian suburb of Observatory in Cape Town, the ice cream cafe offers flavors which include combinations of indigenously sourced food like pumpkin, popped maize, peanuts, sweet potato, clay, and samp, a mushy dish made of dried corn kernels. Every flavor he makes has a story behind it. One such flavor is made from rooibos, a popular tea plant in South Africa, and sweet potato jam.
Today we've made a few different flavors. The first one is pumpkin and peanut butter. And that's inspired by a dish called nopi from Zimbabwe. And it's exactly that, it's pumpkin puree together with peanut butter. And then I've also done rooibos and sweet potato jam. And it's quite common in Zimbabwe as well to eat tea with sweet potatoes instead of bread for just a difference in flavor. And then also done clay, and we've used clays from around Africa a lot. And this is clay from Zimbabwe. It gives you a nice earthy, caramelly kind of fudgy texture and flavor.
Some customers said they found the flavor surprising and were struck by the familiarity of it.
Growing up, we knew that ice cream can be vanilla, something that is just not from here. Now, if you eat something like Sam, it's something that we grew up eating. At the same time, it's it just makes you connect. It connects you with your childhood.
Eating ice cream with African flavors is just so heartwarming. I mean, to be on the continent, to be experiencing flavors that are from here.
The interesting part is he's open to varieties, as people can bring in ingredients from other parts of the continent and they get a free tub of ice cream in return.
Whipping up the taste buds for that. For that said on Network Africa, thank you for watching. Joker Rogers, and Happy New Year, everybody.